There were two toothbrushes in the holder. Mine, the green one with the chewed-up bristles I'd been too lazy to replace, and a blue one. A brand new, sleek, obviously not mine blue toothbrush, sitting in my bathroom, next to my wife's lavender one like it had always belonged there. I stood there staring at it for almost a full minute, my heart pounding harder than it had when I proposed to her 5 years ago. My name's not important. What matters is what that toothbrush told me, without saying a word. I hadn't had a guest over. We don't have kids. My brother hasn't stayed with us in over a year, and he always brings his own electric one anyway. This wasn't some innocent mix-up. No, this was something deliberate, placed, intimate. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. Because the moment I stepped into the bedroom, still in my work boots, still reeling, she looked up from her laptop and said it. That one sentence that made the world tilt sideways. I think I need space. No apology. No guilt. Just that. Like she'd rehearsed it. Like she knew what I'd seen and didn't care enough to pretend. And like an idiot, I nodded. I said, okay. My voice cracked when I said it, which made her flinch, but she didn't take it back. She didn't even explain. She just closed her laptop, stood up, kissed me on the cheek like I was her uncle, and said she'd be staying at her sister's for a while. Sister? Funny. Her sister lived 2 states away. I should have said something. I should have demanded answers, flipped furniture, done something. But instead, I just stood there, in the doorway, looking at the impression her body left on the mattress. The bed was made, but not our kind of made. It was smooth. Hotel smooth. Like someone had fixed it in a hurry, because someone else had been lying in it. And me? I went back into the bathroom, sat on the closed toilet lid, and stared at the blue toothbrush. Like a man mourning something already dead. I didn't cry that night. Not then. I wish I had. Because what came next made that toothbrush feel like a love letter. The toothbrush could have been a fluke. That's what I tried to tell myself as I sat on the bathroom floor, like some tragic sitcom punchline. Maybe a friend visited. Maybe she bought a spare. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions. But the charger in my car? That wasn't mine either, and there was no maybe about it. 2 days after she left for her supposed space, I drove to the gas station just to get out of the house. The silence was eating me alive. I'd been avoiding our bedroom like it was cursed. I slept on the couch with a throw blanket that still smelled like her shampoo. I hadn't eaten much, just saltines and coffee, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Not from caffeine, from dread. I climbed into my car, started the ignition, and immediately noticed a lightning cable plugged into the dashboard. We're Android users. Always have been. But there it was. An iPhone charger. Not mine. Not hers. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. My heart thudded like a slow drumbeat. There's something uniquely gutting about finding physical evidence that someone's been where they shouldn't be. Something that doesn't lie, doesn't twist, doesn't give you a chance to pretend. I hadn't driven the car in days. She had. She'd borrowed it on Tuesday to run errands, because her own car was acting up. And now this. I didn't go to the gas station after all. I just sat there, staring at the charger like it might burst into flames and explain everything. But it didn't. It just sat there. A quiet little wire that screamed louder than any fight we'd ever had. That night, I checked her Instagram. She hadn't posted anything since moving out, but her stories were still active. One caught my attention, a boomerang of a wine glass clinking against someone else's. She never showed faces. Just the edge of a sleeve, a masculine hand, blurry background lights that looked suspiciously like the patio of that rooftop bar we used to go to on anniversaries. And the caption? Just breathing again, clinking glasses dizzy. It was like a punch to the chest. Breathing again? As in, without me? I didn't react. Not publicly. Not even privately. I didn't text her. Didn't ask who he was. Didn't question where she was sleeping or whose hoodie she was now wearing at night. Instead, I started planning something I should have done a long time ago. I stopped being available. I stopped leaving the porch light on. I stopped responding to her vague, "hope you're okay" texts. I stopped pretending I was waiting for her to come to her senses. And I started documenting everything. The toothbrush, the charger, the stories, the late-night whispers, all of it. Because something told me this wasn't just her needing space. This was her erasing me, slowly, deliberately, until I became nothing more than a faded memory she could justify leaving behind. But I wasn't going to let her memory be the only version of the story that lived. Not this time. Not after what I found next. It's wild what you'll do when silence becomes more unbearable than the truth. After a week of pretending I was fine, pretending I didn't care about the toothbrush, the iPhone charger, the cryptic Instagram stories, I snapped. Not in an explosive way. Not the way TV husbands do, with yelling and slamming doors. No, I did what weak men like me do. I started driving around aimlessly, half hoping I'd catch a glimpse of her. Just to know. Just to stop the noise in my head. I didn't have a plan. I swear I didn't. But that night, as I drove past the Arts District downtown, I saw her car. Parked. Same license plate. Same cracked rear reflector. Just sitting there beneath a street lamp in the lot behind a modern glass building. One of those high-end apartment complexes with valet parking and monthly wine tastings. It was 9:48 p.m. She wasn't supposed to be there. She told me earlier she was at her sister's place for the night. Her sister lived in Idaho. This was very much not Idaho. I parked across the street like a coward, sat in my car with the engine off, trying to calm the sick, churning feeling in my stomach. I told myself maybe she was visiting someone. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe. But then I saw her. She walked out the lobby door wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, laughing like she hadn't laughed in months, and next to her was a man. Tall, confident, beard. He wasn't touching her. Not yet. But there was a familiarity in the way she leaned toward him, in the way they stood close without even realizing it. That's the thing about intimacy. It's loud, even in silence. They walked to her car. She unlocked it. He leaned in and said something that made her grin. And then, as casually as you please, she kissed him. Not a polite goodbye peck. A long, slow, knowing kiss. The kind that says this wasn't new. This had been happening. I felt everything in my chest collapse at once. I didn't take photos. I didn't scream or confront them. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel with hands that felt like they didn't belong to me. I watched her drive off, him still standing in the lot, checking his phone like he didn't just shatter a man he'd never even met. I didn't follow her car. I couldn't. My legs were shaking. I drove straight to a 24-hour diner and sat in a corner booth, staring at a slice of pie I didn't eat. For 2 hours. And then, sometime after midnight, I got the text. Thinking of you tonight. Hope you're okay. The audacity of it broke something in me. She kissed another man and still had the nerve to check in like I was her little emotional safety net. Like I was still hers to reach for when the guilt started trickling in. Like I hadn't just seen her lie in real time. I didn't respond. Not that night. Not the next morning either. And that silence? It must have scared her more than anything I could have said, because 3 days later, she showed up at the house. Unannounced. No warning. Just the sound of her key in the lock, like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't set fire to the very idea of us. But the house wasn't the same. And neither was I. She walked in humming. Like she'd just returned from a relaxing weekend retreat. Like I hadn't watched her kiss another man in a parking lot 4 nights ago. She stepped into the kitchen wearing one of my old sweatshirts. The gray one with the faded logo she always said was too big for her, but perfect for cozy nights. I stared at her from across the room as she reached into the fridge, pulled out the oat milk she liked, poured it into a glass, and took a sip like she still lived here. Like this was still her home. She hadn't even looked at me yet. Hey, she said finally, brushing hair from her face. I was thinking we could talk today. I didn't answer. I just kept watching her, arms crossed, back against the wall. I think the silence made her nervous, because she glanced over and did that fake little smile she used to do when she was caught lying about how much she spent at Target. You okay? She asked, walking closer. You've been kind of quiet lately. Kind of quiet? I could have screamed. I could have laughed. I could have thrown every object in that kitchen at the wall and asked her how dare she pretend like she hadn't disappeared into someone else's arms, someone else's apartment, someone else's life, and then tried to slither back into mine like I'd just been here waiting. Instead, I said calmly, you left your toothbrush. She blinked. What? In the bathroom. You left a new toothbrush, I said, pushing off the wall. And a charger in my car. And a used receipt for a restaurant you've never taken me to. But what really gave it away? I pointed at the hallway. The bed was made too neatly when you left. You don't make the bed. Ever. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth to say something, but I wasn't done. I know about him. I continued. I saw you. Downtown. In that black dress. With your hand on his arm and your lips on his mouth. Her lips parted. No words came. Just guilt. Raw. Obvious. Ugly guilt written all over her face like someone had carved it in. I came back, she said finally. To talk. To explain. No, you came back because I stopped replying. That shut her up. I stepped past her and grabbed the folder I'd placed on the dining table the night before. Inside was everything I'd printed, screenshots of texts I'd found, photos from her public Instagram stories, timestamps from the car's GPS history. Even a printout from the phone bill showing hundreds of minutes spent talking to the same unknown number. Her space wasn't a break. It was a full-on replacement strategy. I dropped the folder in front of her. You wanted space. I gave it to you. You wanted air, freedom, time to think. Fine. But while you were out there breathing, I started remembering who I was before you trained me to walk on eggshells. She opened the folder, barely glancing inside. She didn't need to. She knew what she'd done. I made a few calls, I added. Found a lawyer. And no, don't worry. It's not about revenge or fighting over assets. I'm not here to destroy you. I'm just not going to be here for you anymore. Cora sank into the chair at the table like her legs had given out. But I didn't sleep with him, she said suddenly, voice cracking. I swear to you, Franklin, I laughed. I couldn't help it. A dry, bitter laugh that didn't sound like it belonged to me. Oh, so it was just emotional betrayal? Great. You didn't ruin the whole marriage. Just the part where I trusted you. She was crying now. Real tears. Not the manipulative ones. Not the ones she used to end arguments early. These were panicked, painful, too late tears. The kind that come when the person you didn't think would ever walk away finally does. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just walked toward the door, grabbed my keys, and said, you can stay the weekend if you need to. But by Monday, I'd like you out. The lease is in my name. Then I left her there. Alone. With her space. Exactly what she'd asked for. She didn't leave on Monday. I didn't expect her to. She stayed in the guest room like a squatter in a house that used to be hers, moving softly, carefully, as if noise might break what little was left. I didn't speak unless I had to. I made coffee for one. I stopped setting a second plate at dinner. The way she watched me, you'd think she was the victim now. But I stayed cold. Not out of cruelty, but because it was the only way I wouldn't crumble. Then the phone call started. Not to me, of course. No, that would have required facing what she'd done. She started with my sister, Lizzie, called her out of the blue after 2 years of silence, and opened with, I made a huge mistake. Lizzie called me right after. She sounded like she was losing it, she said. Said you were throwing away a good marriage over a misunderstanding. Franklin, is there something I should know? I told her the truth. All of it. And Lizzie, bless her loyalty, said just one thing. Don't let her rewrite history. But that's exactly what Cora was trying to do. She called my best friend, Shane, next. I know because he sent me the voicemail. She was crying, saying how she missed me, how I'd misinterpreted things, that she never meant to hurt me, just got lost in a moment of weakness. Then came the kicker. He's always been so sensitive. You know how Franklin is. I sat on the floor of my garage listening to that, knees pulled to my chest, gripping a wrench like it might anchor me to reality. Sensitive? That's what she calls it when someone loves her so deeply they fall apart watching her love someone else. After Shane, she tried my mom. That call didn't go well. My mother has never liked liars, and when she asked point-blank if Cora had been unfaithful, there was a long, breathless pause before she answered. Not technically. Not technically. That's when my mom hung up. I should have felt vindicated, I guess. But I just felt empty. I watched someone try to claw her way back into my life by gaslighting everyone around me. She wanted to paint the story as a marriage gone stale, a confused husband, a harmless kiss. But she hadn't seen the man I used to be, hunched over his steering wheel, whispering please no when he saw her mouth on another's. And she definitely hadn't seen the man I was becoming, because I was starting to see what life looked like without begging for love. Then, on Thursday night, she finally broke. I was in the kitchen reheating leftovers when she walked in, pale and frantic, holding her phone like it had personally betrayed her. I can't believe they're turning on me, she said, tears streaming. Your sister blocked me. Your mom won't answer. Shane called me a coward. I stayed quiet. She wiped her eyes, sniffling. I didn't think you'd make them choose. I looked up, finally. I didn't. You did that when you kissed someone else, and then came back here like nothing happened. I said I was sorry. No. You said you didn't technically cheat. You said you needed space. You said I was background noise. You never said sorry." She froze, her mouth slightly open like she wanted to argue, but couldn't, because she knew. The silence between us stretched so long it felt like the house itself was holding its breath. Then, quietly, she whispered, "Do you hate me?" I didn't even blink. "No, I just don't recognize you anymore." And with that, I walked out of the kitchen, left her standing there with her phone, her tears, and her mess. I wasn't angry. I wasn't cruel. But I wasn't hers anymore. Our anniversary landed on a Wednesday that year. I didn't even notice until I opened the fridge that morning and saw a white box sitting on the middle shelf. Inside, the lemon cake from that little bakery we used to walk to every Sunday, back when Sundays were still sacred and we were still us. There was no note, no card, just the cake, perfectly wrapped, like a silent olive branch. She didn't say a word about it that morning. She just sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone like she wasn't holding her breath. But I knew exactly what she was doing. 2 weeks had passed since I confronted her. In that time, Cora had tried everything. Denial, apologies, crocodile tears, late night, I can't sleep sighs from the guest room. I ignored them all. I'd stopped talking except for logistics. Who's taking out the trash? When the power bills due? That was all we were now. A transaction waiting to be finalized. So she used our anniversary. She weaponized nostalgia. That night, when I came home from work, she was in the dining room. Candles, wine, plates already set. The same playlist we used during our wedding dinner, humming softly in the background. She was wearing the red dress, the one she wore the night we got engaged. She looked beautiful. I hated that part, that it still hurt to look at her. "Please," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. "Just one dinner. One conversation. You can leave after that if you want. I won't stop you." I should have walked out. God knows I wanted to. But I sat down. Not for her. For the part of me that needed to know if any of it had ever been real. The first 20 minutes were small talk. Work. Weather. Remembering how we couldn't cut the wedding cake because the knife went missing. She laughed too hard at that one. Like she thought if she could get me to laugh too, maybe it would erase everything. Then, she changed tactics. She leaned forward, eyes glassy. "I thought about what you said. About how I erased you. And you're right. I did. I didn't mean to, but I did. I thought needing space would protect us, give me time to figure things out. But the second you gave it to me, I panicked. I didn't expect you to actually go. I didn't know what to do with the silence." I took a sip of wine. "So you filled it with someone else." She flinched. "I'm not seeing him anymore," she said quickly. "It wasn't even a real thing. He made me feel seen. Like I mattered again. And I didn't." "You did," she whispered. "But you were always there. I got used to you loving me no matter what. I stopped earning it." That stung. Because it was true. I gave love like water from a broken pipe. Constant. Unstoppable. She never even had to ask. "I can't go back," I said. "You know that, right?" "I'm not asking you to go back," she replied. "I'm asking if maybe we can start again." Start again. Like she hadn't dragged our marriage through a ditch and lit it on fire. I didn't yell. I didn't throw my glass. I just stood up, walked to the counter, and pulled out the small box I'd hidden behind the microwave. It was a copy of the final papers, already signed by me. I slid them across the table. She stared at them for a long time, like maybe if she blinked enough, they'd disappear. "I already made my decision," I said softly. "You had your space, Cora. I gave it to you. But what you didn't expect is that I found something in that silence, too." She looked up. "What?" "Peace." And then I walked out, leaving her alone at a dinner table set for two. On the anniversary, she turned into a funeral. 3 weeks after I handed her the signed divorce papers, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Amber, an old friend from college who'd moved back to town. It started simple. She saw one of my posts about hiking and replied with, "You still getting lost in the woods like you used to?" And just like that, we reconnected. Slowly. Casually. No pressure. Amber wasn't a rebound. She didn't try to fix me or pull some dramatic rescue operation. She was just there. Steady. Real. The kind of person who doesn't ask for space when things get too quiet and doesn't kiss someone else when things feel too routine. She didn't need grand gestures. She laughed at my dumb jokes, sent me good morning texts, and once brought me soup when I had the flu even though we weren't even officially dating yet. It wasn't love at first sight. It was something better, calm, safe, honest. which is probably why Cora lost her mind the second she found out. It started when I tagged Amber in a photo. It wasn't romantic. Just a picture of us sitting on a bench at the park, coffee cups in hand, fall leaves behind us. Amber's head tilted slightly toward mine. That was all. But apparently, that single image was enough to shatter whatever delusion Cora had been clinging to. She texted me that night at 12:41 a.m. I was asleep. I woke up to 5 messages. Seriously? Already? So that's what peace looks like. Do you even care? She looks nothing like me. No greeting. No hello. Just passive aggression and venom. It was the first time she acknowledged Amber by name, or even acknowledged that I might have a life outside of her. I didn't respond. 2 days later, Amber got a friend request on Instagram from a blank account. Then a message. Careful with him. He moves on fast when things get hard. Amber showed it to me with a raised eyebrow. This your ex? I could only nod. Embarrassed. Furious. But mostly stunned. Cora wasn't just watching. She was interfering. It didn't stop there. She started messaging mutual friends, asking if I seemed okay, dropping hints like he's rushing into something to avoid processing our marriage, or he's doing this to hurt me. She even called my mom, again, this time crying, telling her I was changing, that I wasn't the Franklin she knew, and that she was worried he's being manipulated. My mom, who has the patience of a saint, simply said, he's happy. That's more than I ever saw when he was with you. I thought that would end it, but it didn't. The final straw came when Amber and I ran into Cora at the grocery store. She was in the frozen food aisle. We weren't holding hands, just talking. Amber reached for a pint of ice cream and laughed at something I said, and that's when Cora rounded the corner. Her eyes locked onto us, and for a split second, she looked like a stranger. Not my ex-wife. Not the woman I spent 9 years building a life with. Just a stranger full of hate and regret. She didn't say anything to me. She looked straight at Amber and said, loud enough for people to hear, "Hope you enjoy the leftovers." Amber didn't even flinch. She just smiled, turned to me, and said, "Well, that was desperate." We walked away, and for the first time in this entire mess, I didn't feel sick or ashamed or rattled. I felt free. Cora had used space as an escape hatch. I had used it to rebuild. And no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't drag me back into the fire I'd finally climbed out of. It's strange, the moment you realize you're no longer haunted. For me, it came on a Wednesday morning, standing barefoot in my kitchen, making pancakes with Amber. The light was pouring in through the windows, the kind of soft golden glow that makes everything feel warmer than it really is. She was humming some ridiculous tune, flipping pancakes while wearing one of my old shirts, and I just stood there watching her, smiling like an idiot. And I realized I hadn't thought about Cora in days. Not in that heavy, bitter, poison heart kind of way. Not like I used to. She was just gone. A chapter that had closed with its pages wrinkled and stained, sure, but no longer needing to be reread. I'd spent so long picking through the wreckage of that marriage, trying to understand what broke, trying to decide if I was too sensitive, too soft, too me. But none of that mattered anymore. I wasn't background noise now. I wasn't the fallback option or the dependable guy to be loved later. I was someone's first choice. A few weeks later, I got a letter. Handwritten. From Cora. It wasn't long. She didn't ask to come back. She didn't beg or justify. She just said she finally understood what she'd thrown away. That she'd mistaken consistency for complacency. That she'd thought the fire in her heart needed to come from chaos, when in fact, it had always come from being seen. And she admitted she never really saw me until I left. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because I'd already said everything I needed to when I walked away in silence, and meant it. I didn't get revenge. I didn't torch her life or expose her to the world. I simply removed myself from the equation. And sometimes, that's the loudest thing you can do. That silence. That space she asked for. It became my sanctuary. She lost a husband who would have done anything to make her happy. I found a woman who never made me ask whether I was enough. I found peace. I found love. But more than anything, I found me.